How you doing, guys? How you guys doing? Good to see you. You know, it's every year you do these kind of whether it's going to Las Vegas and the preseason Mountain West thing, or you do the kind of kickoff press conference. You always kind of think back to the narrative of a year ago and how things play out. The reality of it is, no matter how long any of us have done this, whether it's coaching, media, fans, none of us know exactly how it's going to go, right? That's why we go play these games. And so much of your summer and so much of your off season is preparing when those many times bad things happen, of how your football team, how your coaching staff is going to react to those things that are happening, those unknowns, right? Because that's the next step of this. All this from the time we walked off the field against against Wyoming last year. There's been so much done that you couldn't even start to go step by step of everything that's happened. But all that's been in an environment that we could control, So now it's the unknown. Now it's the uncontrolled, because all of a sudden you're going against different things where you can't always control the narrative of it. So. How does all this play out? That's we all go to Las Vegas. I set it up there. We all have our dreams. We all have our plans. We all lay awake at night and kind of picture and think about how it's going to go. You drive home, you're thinking about, okay, when I'm driving home in November, what's this going to look like, right? None of us know. I do think back to a year ago, just to give it some context. We were sitting here coming off 6 straight years of really triple option football. We go hire Calvin McGee from the University of Arizona. They're a run-first spread team. We love the idea of combining some spread things with some of the triple things that we've been so successful with. We play the first game of the year. The very first pass of the season, it's complete to Q Drennan. Q Drennan's out for the rest of the year, rest of the season. First pass of the season, he catches it, great catch, dislocated hip, misses the rest of the season. We get ahead in the game. At the end of the game, we put Colton Gerhardt in. He's the second quarterback, real good runner that's going to fit in with Tavaka. He has a Liz Frank injury at the end of the game on a 4th and 1 on the goal line. He's out until the San Diego State game at the end of the season. The very next week, we go to Wisconsin, take the first drive 80 yards. We're in the second quarter. We're kind of got a rhythm going on offense. Tavaka has the concussion. So now that best laid plan of transitioning from triple to spread, marrying that, it's Sharon Jones at quarterback, who did not have any spring ball or any fall camp, and then it is Trey Hall, a true freshman. So those best laid plans of that quarterback being a runner and going into a spread triple concept, that was over. We think we have some good players coming back on defense. We've got a Trent Sellers, a defensive end from Georgia Tech, nobody had heard about, had really a good spring, probably our best defensive lineman. He gets hurt in the last scrimmage before camp with an ACL, never steps foot on the field. We go to Las Cruces. Really our 3-year leader, Alex Hart, goes down with a knee. He's out the rest of the season. Well, obviously, looking back at that, we didn't respond very well. We got into a full spread system on offense because we couldn't run the quarterback. We ended up not being able to protect the quarterback. The quarterback got rattled, not to be unexpected. On defense, honestly, we never rebounded. We had some other injuries. But you also look back to a year ago. I'm standing here this time a year ago. We never had a kicker or punter who kicked or punted in a game. Well, when the season ends, our punter, I think maybe had the longest kick in the NCAA last year, certainly had the longest kick in school history. We had a walk-on kicker from here in town that emerged as a really consistent kicker. So the things that we thought we were going to do, we didn't do. The things that maybe we were concerned about ended up going pretty well for us. So again, how we react to the things that are going to happen that are unknown. That is what all this is about, and that's what all your preparation does all through the summer with these players. If I could just kind of give you a picture of what our team looks like, I think, I can give you one position, I think, that totally accurately kind of describes our team. And this affects how we practice. If you look at our running back situation, Amari Davis is a guy that played some last year, probably has the most experience, in some ways may have the most dependability. But he's a guy that's 2 years in this program. He's already used up one of those years. We're expecting a lot out of him. He was injured last year against Utah State, right when we thought he was coming on. But now we have a 2-year guy down to 1 year at tailback, expecting a lot out of him. Now, we have 3 players at that position that were pretty highly recruited. You go back and look at Contrell Moran from the St. Louis area. You look at L.O. Johnson from Wisconsin and Day Vigilant from Los Angeles. 3 guys that were pretty highly recruited. When it was going pretty good here, we were running the ball. People across the country realized that. We had a great brand. All 3 of those guys have had knee injuries. They are back. What are they going to be? We have 2 smaller, explosive guys. Bryson Carroll, we moved from quarterback, probably 5'6.5", 5'7", but explosive, quick. Chad Alexander, a freshman from New Orleans that's been here all summer, 5'6.5", 5'7", fast, explosive. And then we have 3 walk-ons that have been put on scholarship. Javon Jones, Micah Gray, and Bobby Cole. So what is our running back position? Well, it's kind of like our team is. We've got some older guys that may not have been here that long. The junior college guy that maybe hasn't been totally productive yet. You look at Dejon Rogers at corner. We're expecting a lot out of him. He's down to his last year, kind of like Amari Davis. We've got some guys that are coming back from injuries on our team, kind of like those 3 running backs I mentioned. We have some guys that are talented but haven't done it yet. And then we do have some walk-ons that have become significant members of this team. So I think that running back position kind of is a snapshot of what our team is. Sometimes you drive home and you're really excited because I think we've built it back up numbers-wise. We've got some talent in there. There's reason for optimism. But yet you ride home and you say, who has really done it? Who's going to be the first guy to carry the ball? Who's going to be the guy that carries the ball 200 times this year? I don't know. Who's the starting defensive backs? We probably have 4 or 5 new starters in the secondary. So it's probably why people should come out and watch us, right? One of the true reasons. I was asked the question, is this my most difficult year here at UNM? And I really had to kind of take a step back and say, wow, has it been that long? Do we need to go back and kind of refresh people's memories, right? We took over, it was 3 wins and 37 losses in the 40 games before we came here. Coming off major NCAA probation in Rockies last year. Not NCAA probation, major academic probation. 5 scholarships a year through the Mike Loxley era. That's 15 scholarship players over a 3-year period that Mike inherited that burden. Lowest number of scholarship players in the country. All the above. First year played at Texas Tech, opened up at home, played at Texas Tech, at New Mexico State, came home and played Boise State in that first year. Covered with walk-ons just to get enough guys out on the field. So in perspective, if you put it all in perspective, we won 3 games last year. They were 3-37 in the 40 before we came here. So I do keep it all in perspective. There are challenges this year, but there is excitement as well. Why I kind of went through that whole thing, not to just listen to myself talk, but that kind of takes us into how we have to practice. How do you figure out who the ball carrier is unless you scrimmage? How do you know? You're going to go out there and thud? for 4 straight weeks and then say, okay, we're going to pick a running back. How do you pick who those defensive backs are, maybe that haven't played before? They have to tackle full speed. How do you decide who the quarterback is? So we have to scrimmage this camp. We have to treat every day in some ways like it's a game to see how guys react, how they handle the negatives, how they handle when maybe they thought they were going to be first today on the depth chart and they weren't. So not a minute to spare. The enthusiasm's at a very high level. The one thing I do know, the one thing I do know, and I've been around this enough to know in the media piece. I've been around a lot of places in preseason. Went to a lot of those conference media days, and sometimes a coach will say things to deflect, right? Like, I'm not saying this to deflect from being 3-9. I'm saying it because it's absolutely true, just comparing it to things. This has been very close to the most positive offseason I've been involved with. We talk all the time about our team gains will come from individual gains. Starting with how you take care of your business in all facets of your life. I respect the GPA. I respect that we are coming off a fall and a spring with back-to-back 3-9 teams where we had the highest yearly GPA in the history of this program. That means something to me. That's not something to deflect from being 3-9. I look at our football team that's been here all summer. Knock on wood, there have been no behavioral issues with a football team that's been here all summer. That's one thing I know for sure, and one thing why we really enter this thing in a positive frame of mind, beyond just the normal hype of starting off 0-0 like everybody else. So, again, man, that's why we go play the games, right? To see what's going to happen. So obviously a lot riding on this season. We need to get this thing back to where we had kind of built it to. It won't be easy, but it's definitely doable. So with that said, who wants to start off here?
Jimmy, SBN. We've all been, most of us have been part of winning organizations, losing organizations, everything in between. What personally motivates you, whether you're winning, losing, or in between?
Yeah, I think I can take it to this specific situation, Jim. As I say, coming in here when the situation was what it was, and to be able to get it to the point where it was 2 years ago of back-to-back bowl games. Obviously, at that point, if it was job security that I was really worried about, I probably wouldn't have been back here for the 6th year, quite honestly. Frank gave me a statistic. I'm the 31st head coach here in the history of this program. The average tenure is 3.7 years in the 30 head coaches. I've coached the second most games in the history of this program now. It's Rocky Long and then me. But the point being, to get that back, to get it to where it was. I'm realistic enough to know there's going to be dips in a program like ours. You are not going to get it to this level and just stay at this level. Just look at history. But the challenge of doing it once and then not walking away from it, and then not walking away from it when we've really taken some bumps the last couple of years. Maybe it's a demon in some ways. Maybe it's always kind of feeling like you're the underdog. Maybe it's whatever it is. It's that thing of, it's a piece of how much is invested and not want it to leave when it was down. All the above. I couldn't put it as one thing that motivates me. But definitely to stay the course in this program and to get it back to where we had it. Go ahead.
So if you're motivated by self-interest alone, you'd probably be doing something else?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I'm not just that unselfish guy that says, okay, I'm staying because it's really hard or I really don't like it here. This is what I love to do. That's what it's what I love to do. So, yeah, I'm not doing this for someone else. I'm doing it because New Mexico has been very good to me. It hired me when I was out of coaching 10 years and gave me another opportunity. My daughter is here as an attorney, took the bar in this state, has had a great run as an attorney. My grandson was born here. My wife was, excuse me, not my wife. My daughter was married here. My son's on the coaching staff. New Mexico has been very good to me. There is a loyalty to this place. There is a loyalty to this place. So it's, for me, as much as I see it being just to get the program back, and something that I absolutely enjoy doing. You know, I'm not doing it out of stubbornness or doing it out of I want to prove everybody wrong. You know, if you're around me on a day-to-day basis, the people that know me know I get a tremendous amount of enjoyment out of doing this.
Coach, you know how you talked about all the questions with the team, you wanted the prior scrimmage a lot this camp. How do they look compared to like when you guys did win 9 games, different things like that? How do they look as compared to some of those teams?
Yeah, I don't think there's a dramatic amount of difference. You know, you think back, we weren't a juggernaut when we won 9 games. You know, we fought every week. We fought every week and won some close games, right? Again, that's why last year, if you look back, there were times we were pretty bad. Now, I can't stand here and say every week it was a close game. But when you look at the Colorado State game up in Fort Collins, right, it comes down to the last kick of the game. Certainly Liberty out here where we had the ball, we fight back, we get them 3rd and 7, can't get off the field. We get the ball back, we're going to win the game. Certainly San Diego State at home. Right there, that's 6 wins to get to a bowl game. So it doesn't look dramatically different. You know, to my point of, I don't know realistically that we are going to be that program that we get to that level where it's just that level every year. You know, we are going to be scratching and clawing, and it's going to come down to winning close games, like a lot of people. So I don't think, it's hard to say. It really is. I'd like to stand here and say, okay, this is my 41st year or whatever it is in football, and I've got a tremendous pulse on what our record's going to be. I know exactly how we match up compared to how we were my 4th year here, or our 5th year. I don't know. And that's something any coach that does, you know, honestly, I don't think until you get in that season in college football that you know. And then the rhythm and the momentum that you can gain from winning 1 game. You know, if we block that field goal up at Colorado State last year on that last play of that game, or if on 3rd and 4 we catch the ball and get the first down and we keep the ball and run the clock out, our whole season and our whole perspective of things changes. And that's the thing, you know, that's the thing that you try to build towards so much, like I said in the off season, is how are we going to react to those situations? So I don't know. I do know athletically we've got enough pieces. I do know we have enough guys. Now, how's all that going to gel together?
And you talked about the 2 explosive running backs, you know, Bryson Carroll and the new guy,
Chad Alexander.
Are they kind of in the mode of like a Jarrell Presley or Terrion Gibson, that quick first step where they're already in the 2nd tier?
Yeah, they're that mold. It's just that I went back in the spring, Bryson Carroll had 5 actual carries where he actually touched the ball and had a chance to run the ball. You know, we're in an RPO world where it's the run-pass option, and even on calls where you were going to run it, just like everybody. Now, that's overtaken college and pro football. You're going to run it, but depending on what the coverage is, you're going to come out of there and throw it. We've got to get our running backs enough carries to know. That's back to that point again. They are definitely the body type and the quickness of and explosiveness of the guys we've had success with around here.
Coach, looking at quarterback, I think it was all the way up to the week of the first game of the season you waited to announce a starter. Do you have a timetable you'd like to accomplish, or is that sort of something you want to see where it goes?
Yeah, you know, best laid plans again, right? You know, I will say this right now, Tavaka Toyota did go home here. You know, our players had a couple days off, and his grandfather, his mom's dad, has a serious health condition, you know, a setback. I talked to Devaka this morning. He's at the hospital with his mom and his grandfather and their whole family. There's something right now. You know, there's a situation that's come up right now. Devaka may not be back for the start of camp. So to stand here and say, okay, here's our timeline, I think we know how the competition stacks up, who the guys are. I don't think there's any sense trying to put a timeline on that. It's going to happen as it happens, Brandon.
Well, it was refreshing to hear about your motivation. But, you know, you have 3 years left on your contract.
Yeah.
And how long do you want to keep on doing this? Do you want another extension? And how does that affect recruiting?
You know, I try to, you know, take a step back and, you know, answer that as honestly as I could answer it. I think, first of all, you know, if you ever, let's take the scenario you get fired, okay? If you, as soon as you think about or worry about getting fired, one thing I know for sure, you will get fired. Because now you're looking at it through the lens of, I'm negative, I'm trying to be political, I'm trying to tweet as many things as I can of self-promotion. At least that's my view of it. My point is, as soon as you think about getting fired or the fear of getting fired or the fear of results, you're going to get fired because now you have done something different and looked at coaching through a different lens. So that's of no factor to me right there. That's of no factor to me. Again, I said, if longevity in a leadership position at the University of New Mexico is your number one concern, you shouldn't be at the University of New Mexico. You know, I went through the coaches here. There's been 30 other coaches. The average tenure is 3.7. Next year will be my 8th season. There's been 4 presidents since I've been here. 4 presidents at the University of New Mexico. There's been 3 athletic directors. There's been 3 basketball coaches. Basketball is a pretty good job here. So if it was longevity that I worried about, I probably would have left after my 5th year. I'm smart enough to realize what this job is here at leadership levels, whether it's my job, the president's job, the athletic director's job, the basketball coach. So I'm motivated simply by having the energy, the love, the competitiveness to do what I do. And then it will be somebody else's decision. That's what coaching is. At some point, somebody will say, listen, appreciate what you've done. Maybe we don't appreciate what you've done. It's time we think somebody else can do better. So I'm in no way in the back of my mind saying, okay, I might get fired, or this season my job's on the line, or I'm on the hot seat. That in no way enters into my mind, honestly. Do I want to be fired? No. Do I have a bunch of young coaches here and I see all these families and I understand what that will do to everybody? Absolutely not. Do you want to get credit for doing a good job? Absolutely. But I think one thing maturity does, I know I'm comfortable in my own skin. So I'm going out there coaching every day like it's my first year here with the same kind of energy. In a lot of ways it is. In a lot of ways it is my first season. And I think that's a good thing. So to ask me how many years I'm going to do this, man, I was 10 years at ESPN. If anybody ever told me I was going to do ESPN 10 years. But in some ways, my battery's recharged. You know, I was 10 years out of it. And even though, you know, there's been some juice sucked out of it in these 7 years, I still got enough in that tank. But if I'm not good enough and somebody else thinks they can hire somebody that's better, you know, I've always hated the coach that said, hey, I feel good. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to do it as long as I feel good. Well, wait a second. Somebody else is going to decide your fate in this profession. It's not just about you feeling good. Other people have to agree you're the best for the job at that time. So I don't know if I answered it. I've kind of rambled around. Jim?
Is there some positive aspect to maybe expectations are low, so instead of holding on to it too tight, you can just let it rip?
I think that's what this job has been. You know, we came back after winning 9 games in the bowl game. We went to Las Vegas. We might have been picked last that year or next to last. You know, and I think you are always in some ways that here. You know, there may be other places where you coach where regardless, you may not have many returners, but you're always going to be picked up here. And there is a burden with that. You know, there's no question in, you know, there's a trade-off with everything. At coaching at the tradition-rich place, Urban Meyer is one of my best friends. There's a trade-off with that of every year, is it good enough? Every year, if we don't win them all, the expectations that come with the tradition. Then there's trade-offs with coaching out of New Mexico where there may not be those kind of expectations, where maybe you can rip it a little bit more. And quite honestly, I have enjoyed that here. That's one of the first things when I came here 7 years that I truly, truly enjoyed about this place. Letting it rip. We came in here and ran a triple option offense that they thought we were crazy. Like, what is that? Well, you can do that at a New Mexico a little bit easier than you can at an Ohio State. So it's something, again, for me personally, I like that. You know, I like being at a place where maybe you can prove people wrong, or you can do something at a place where people say you can't do it. You know, maybe because I coached at a place where everybody says you absolutely have to do it, and you're expected to do it. Yeah. Marty.
Hey, Coach, from what I talked to the players, they say that Jordan Peterson has brought a fresh of energy and enthusiasm they hadn't seen for a long time, and they really are enthusiastic to play for him.
Well, it's we hadn't got knocked in the mouth yet, right? I think Coach Cosgrove, Kevin Cosgrove, is one of my best friends. I love Coach Cos. This time a year ago, we thought we were really going to be good on defense. It had nothing to do with Cos. Let's wait until we play. I appreciate their enthusiasm. Jordan's a fiery young guy. There's a reason I made him coordinator. Again, I appreciate that, but I also know last year we were pretty excited about our defense. The first half we went out against Incarnate Word. They had 350 yards in the first half. So, but I do sense with both coordinators, Joe Daly and Jordan Peterson, you know, we've got two guys. I doubt that either one of them are 35 years old, Brian. You know, which I don't know how much that has to do with it, but there's definitely an energy, Marty, to this football team.
You know, Coach, you're talking about using this time to just figure out what you have with some of these positions. Go back to about this time last season, I think you sound like you felt pretty confident in the offensive line, you know, even with all the uncertainties of going into a new season. Is there any whole position group you feel that same way about now? You feel pretty good about it?
Yeah, I feel often. It's funny, you know, it does go through cycles. Like there were years here where at running back, we're good. Offensive line, I'm nervous. All of a sudden, that offensive line, we've had a lot of continuity in the offensive line. Kids have stayed in the program. We've had the same offensive line coach. That now becomes a pretty solid group. So, you know, if I looked at it from that standpoint, that offensive line is pretty solid right now. Pretty solid. Wide receiver position, pretty talented. You know, we've got a couple new guys in there, in Jordan Kress and Manny Logan Green. And then we've got Lilly and Jay Griffin sitting there that haven't even had a chance to touch their potential, along with huge running back Anu Samoy, Aaron Molina. We redshirted Aaron Molina last year. He's in his fifth year now. So, I mean, we've got some weapons, and we're pretty talented at receiver. Yeah.
You talked about how this is all about how you react to things that you didn't think were going to happen. What are some specific things you're doing this year to kind of prevent what happened last year when maybe some players weren't prepared?
Yeah, I think it's, we did it last year too, honestly. You know, you always talk about, we have a little formula we use, but, you know, those definite moments are coming. Like, we've called them O-S-H-I-T moments. Like, oh, how do we react? We talk a lot about the event happening that we cannot control. And all we can control is how we react to that event. Totally, every day. And football is a whole game of an event happens, and now you go to the next play, right? Like every play is an event. So constant team building and leadership and talking about scenarios of the most difficult thing. Like just trying to prepare guys for the most difficult thing. And we have a little thing that we call the line of default, you know, of trying in the off season as a person to raise your line of default. You know, we all have it. You know, what causes me to default? And default means it's where I can't fulfill a commitment. I can't fulfill an obligation. I melt down, I cave in. I lose control really of the outcome because I defaulted. Everybody's different in what causes them to default, right? I have my things that would cause me to default, where I lose it. I lose my lens and I don't make the right decision. So how do we make each kid individually recognize what causes him to default? Maybe it's fatigue induced. Maybe you just get tired and you default. Maybe it's you're a jealous person that can't stand anything good to happen for somebody else. So you see somebody else, something happens good, you default because you're jealous. Maybe it's, you know, we've got a lot of things. We call it the pleasure gene. Maybe you default because there's a pleasure gene that you give it, right? We all have that. So we constantly talk about building that line of default because it's coming. It's coming, all of us. Something causes all of us to become weak. I mean, I don't want to give you the whole clinic, but it's all about team building and it's all about preparing for things that are coming your way. And isn't that life? Doesn't that teach you to be a better husband and a better father and a more productive person? Because not only are you going to get beat over the top for a touchdown out here, 8 years from now when you're married, your son may come home and say this, or your wife may come home and say this. It is a whole series of handling situations that come to you throughout the rest of your life. So that's why this is a great game, right? Because you learn some tough things in this game, and you're trying to prepare guys.
Coach, looking at the schedule, I know you want to start out really good if you can, of course, obviously. And, you know, you look here and we're probably going to be favorites or close to favorites.
Don't even say it. I'm going to tell you right now. Don't even go there. Okay. I'm just kidding. You know ball. You've been around here a long time. You remember last time Sam Houston State came to Albuquerque?
Yeah, I do.
Who won that game?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. You realize Sam Houston's been to the FCS playoffs, what, 6 of the last 7 years? You realize they're located in Huntsville, Texas, right? They get transfers. They have outstanding talent. Don't look past, I'm telling you right now, don't look past Sam Houston State. Huh? I defaulted. Yeah, I started to get expectations caused me to default right there. Yeah. But honestly, you know, we're all going to look at that Notre Dame game and say, wow, look at that Notre Dame game. Sam Houston and New Mexico State, we all know, are much more important to the outcome of this team than Notre Dame. So don't look at who's favored now. There's not a team on our schedule looking at us and saying themselves are going to be the underdog in this game. There's not one team looking at saying New Mexico will be favored against us, being totally honest. Now, when I look at the other side of it, we got a great shot to me in most of them, just on paper, you know, but don't. So I'm going to cancel your question now because I know where you were headed with that. Yeah.
Brandon, you got the warning.
Coach, of all the positions, you got a lot of new faces. Secondary, is it safe to say that's the biggest wild card of the defense with all the new faces you have?
Running back and secondary. But we do have some explosive guys in that secondary. Patrick Peak didn't play much last year. He's explosive. Jarek Reed's a junior college kid that was here in camp. Dejon Rogers is a corner that's here. Dante Martin. I could keep going. I could keep going. It's one of those ones that sometimes you drive home on 25 and you feel like really excited to see our secondary. And then sometimes you say, there's not a guy back there that's played more than 20 plays since he's been here. But it could be real good.
A couple things. The first thing, are you guys early camp? Is it going to be like open to the public and stuff like that? You guys can try to get them involved at all?
Yeah, it's been open. I'm just waiting for some people to come. We've had it open every year. I mean, nothing's changed. Right, Brian? It's been open every year, so you guys are all welcome. You guys want to, you know, put some tables out there, picnic tables. Just keep your butt back off the field. Don't anybody getting hurt. No, it's open all the time. And you know, people talk a lot about attendance, right? Let's talk about that. You know, we all realize that college football across the country is struggling a little bit. College football is still the second most popular sport in this country, I think. NFL football and college football, right? I mean, college football is fine, healthy. But there is a little bit of a problem of people showing up at stadiums across the country because it's a 3.5-hour game. In some ways, it's kind of a television game because of all the replays, and you can sit there and watch 10 different games, right? So we are not unique in this. And I think we really need to be realistic about what is a realistic number of expectations of how many people come to our games. We're about in there with the other Mountain West Conference teams as far as attendance, right? It's a struggle. It's a struggle. There is a direct correlation between marketing dollars, marketing, and how many people you put in the stadium. Would everybody agree with that? There's a direct correlation. So let's keep that in mind. There is a direct correlation between how much money is spent on escalating the fan experience to come to a game. The more money you put in for the fan experience, I don't know how many hot dogs the Isotopes give away. I don't know how many different jersey nights, how many different hat nights. I have tremendous respect for the Mexico United, what they do. Let's all realize there is a direct correlation between marketing dollars, marketing effort, and how many people come in the stadium. There's a direct correlation between how much money you put into it to improve fan experience. You all agree with that? So let's all be realistic when we say how many people come to Lobo football games. Let's not hold that against the players because there's not enough people there. It is what it is. Okay?
And the second thing I was going to ask you, I know that you're doing one game at a time. You haven't done camp and all that stuff, but have you been thinking about Notre Dame? I mean, you coach there and stuff like that. How much is that on your mind?
That sounded like a lot better idea 5 years ago when we came up with this idea. You know, like the reality has sunk in, right? The reality has sunk in. You know, this will be the 6th time that I've coached against Notre Dame as an opponent, but it's the first time I've ever coached against Notre Dame in that stadium. You know, we played them 3 times at Texas A&M, 3 Cotton Bowls. We played them twice at the University of Pittsburgh. My first game in college coaching in 1977 as a graduate assistant at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was coming off the national championship. Johnny Majors, Tony Dorsett. Jackie Sherrill's first game as a head coach in 1977, Notre Dame came into Pitt Stadium and beat us in my first game as a college coach. Yeah, I mean, the idea of going back there is certainly unique. But again, that Sam Houston State game and that New Mexico State game before and after, that resonates more with me, honestly.
Anything else?
Steve?
I was hoping you could speak about Alex Hart and just what can you say about his rehabilitation and is he going to be ready?
You know, Alex Hart's brother is, am I allowed to talk about that? Yeah. Well, Alex Hart's mother was a swimmer. Let me keep on the family. Alex Hart's mother was a swimmer at the University of Minnesota, and Alex Hart's dad played at the University of Minnesota as a football player along with his brother. So it's a very athletic family. And there's another one coming. I'll just leave it at that. But Alex Hart, I think, is 100%. You know, as far as moving around, doing all the things he's doing right now, the next piece is to jump in there and do it with contact. He's been unbelievable. You know, Mickey, I wanted to say Mickey Marotti because he was my strength coach at Notre Dame, who's been Urban's. Scott Holsopple, who is a Mickey disciple, is our strength coach now. And Scott Holsopple's done some unique things with all of our guys, but a lot of the wrestling and the MMA kind of movements and kickboxing, Scott is really, really good at all of that. He was a boxer at Penn State. And Alex, along with Trent Sellers and those injured guys, I think have really benefited from some of those different type of conditioning and strengthening activities. So Alex Hart right now is full speed, ready to go along with Trent Sellers.
Coach, if Trent Sellers can stay healthy, and I know you have high expectations, is he going to create some really unbelievable matchups against other Mountain West opponents with his quickness and speed at the
We'll
edge?
see. You know, his dad played tight end at Auburn, Trent Sellers' dad. In fact, when they came for the visit, I won't go there, but I was at Texas A&M. We played Bo Jackson in the '85 Cotton Bowl. They could have won the game. Late in the game, they get the ball on the 7-yard line, gave the ball to Bo Jackson 4 straight times from the 7-yard line. We stopped them, won the game. A huge Cotton Bowl win for us in 1985. Bo Jackson, the tailback, 4 straight times carries the ball against us on the goal line. We stop them. Trent Sellers' dad was a tight end on that field in that game. And I had no idea. So Trent Sellers comes in for the visit with his dad. He's telling me he played at Auburn, played in '85 with Bo Jackson. I said, what'd you play? He said, tight end. We YouTubed the goal line series, came in here and watched it, and I watched his dad at tight end blocking for Bo Jackson when we were at A&M playing against him. But I'm anxious to see him. He's put in a lot of work. He's a great kid. He's put a lot into this. I just hope he can stay healthy, like with Alex.
Are you happy about the early games? We have a lot of early games this year. Do you think the crowd might come to early games instead of complaining about it 9 o'clock and 8 o'clock? And I just thought it'd be
Yeah, I hope
time
so.
to play.
You know, I think, Sam Houston State's at 4 o'clock. I'll let you guys decide if that is better than 6 o'clock. New Mexico State's 2 o'clock. That's for television. You know, both 4 o'clock and 2 o'clock, something we've talked a lot about through the off season. I'm glad they're in our stadium at 4 o'clock and 2 o'clock. I do think that's a bit of a factor with that sun from the west looking across to that sideline over here, where sometimes you get a little protection with that press box. So, you know, one thing you can't control is what time those games are kicked off, honestly. So,
I just had a
sure.
comment. Since I boxed Holly home 15 years ago, Sam said he would suit up and take some snaps for charity if it helped bring people out.
Who said that?
Sam did.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, we need some outside the box. I'm thinking about some outside box things here to get
Local
people.
radio's free. We'll help you out. In
There we go. There we go. We might have dog night where we let everybody bring their dogs. What do you think of that? Would that work?
That's actually a good idea.
Is it?
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Dog night. Bark at the park.
Might get a little
Bark at
messy,
the park.
but it'd be fun.
All right, guys.
Since you like to volunteer people, you can clean it up after.
There you go.
Let's go see what happens, right?
I'll volunteer for the thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you, guys.